evening. Welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, April 26th. The regular session is now called to order. First item on the agenda is a consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from the regular session of 4/12/12, the acceptance of warrants 43V12 and 44P12.
So moved.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Next up is our student rep, Matt Hartford. What's going on at the high school these days?
Coming out of vacation, the seniors and all their activities, and right now scholarship applications are the biggest thing burdening seniors right now for due dates next week. Very excited about that. We put the senior countdown up this week on the wall in the senior hallway, so that means there's less than 30 days left, which is very exciting. Spring sports are in full cycle. Actually, the girls have a night game going on right now at Triton, so hopefully they'll have I know it's raining, but it should be a pretty good game for that.
Lacrosse?
Yes, girls lacrosse. Sorry.
Okay.
And did you say something about the baseball team, or?
Oh, no,
No.
It was the-
Just
Yeah,
making
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I wasn't sure because I know they had a game today too. So, and then next week is actually the senior showcase, which student council is running. It'll be next Thursday, May 3rd. It's we've got a lot of different seniors doing different talents from singing, dancing, acting. So that'll be a very good.
What was that date, Mark? I'm Mike. Matt.
Thursday, May 3rd.
Thursday, May 3rd. Okay, thank you.
So
Is
I
that
definitely
middle school and high school or just high school?
just high school.
Okay.
Okay.
So I know the middle school is actually doing their own talent show next.
I
Friday?
couldn't remember the date. That's why I was.
I'm not positive on the date, but I know
We can
that's
ask
also
Brian when he
coming
comes.
up.
They moved the date.
Did they? Okay.
And then lastly, the band will be going to Six Flags for their annual festival in a couple weeks, so we're in a big prep time for that as well.
Great.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So you have, what, 2 more meetings with us?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we have
No,
May
oh.
May 10th.
Oh, we have 2 meetings. Yeah.
May 10th. We have 2 meetings in
The 10th
May.
and the 24th. Okay.
Right. So I don't know. You may not be here on the 24th,
He doesn't
but we'll let you
graduate until
decide.
June 2nd.
Yeah.
He doesn't graduate until June 2nd. So.
But when is your last day though?
Tuesday, May 29th.
Yeah. So
after
I
Memorial
think
Day.
yeah. So he probably will come for 2. Although we might give you grace on the second one, perhaps. You need it. You need it for finals and all those things.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. Public agenda. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on any item on the agenda this evening? Okay, feel free to come up. Hi. Can you just state your name and address for the record so that Laura
Sure.
can put it in our minutes?
Mike and Rachel Doucette, 1 Walding Field Road.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
I've
meet
exchanged
you.
emails. All right.
We'd like to comment on the agenda item of Superintendent Jacobs' performance review tonight. First, we'd like to say that we're certain that Superintendent Jacobs performs many parts of her job very well.
We have to stop.
Yeah, just have to stop it.
It's on the agenda for the school committee to do her evaluation. So what you can do is either discuss her performance with her, or you can bring it forward to the committee. But it's not a public discussion of the school committee's evaluation.
The school committee has a responsibility to seek public comment in open session on the superintendent's performance, correct?
Not before we do our
No, we haven't
evaluation.
done the evaluation yet.
So when would the public speak in that case then?
It would not be on the agenda following
You
this
can,
meeting, so
you
we.
can,
would request that.
you can request that it
Since
be
you set
So
the
why-
agendas at the beginning of the month for the entire month, how are we then supposed, if there's no more meetings in June, how are we supposed to do that?
In June?
in June.
We're doing
If-
evaluation tonight.
I understand, and your minutes typically do not come out and get approved until the following meeting, which is the beginning of May. And I was informed that the agendas for the entire month are set at the beginning of
Usually
the
the
month.
beginning of the month.
So, and nothing gets changed on those agendas. So if that's the case, and the minutes are not approved until the first May meeting, and there's no June meeting, how are we supposed to have it added to the agenda?
Well, it's the responsibility of the committee to perform the superintendent's evaluation.
In open session,
In open session, that's correct.
with
And it
public
is the
comment.
school committee's responsibility to carry out its functions openly while seeking comments from the public. You represent the community, and submitting our comments on this very component of the review is a review that is required to be held in open session. I quote from your policy, the committee would like the opportunity to hear the wishes and ideas of the public. And that is why we have created a statement.
It's not, but it's as part of her evaluation. So I would suggest that we either discuss it after her evaluation or prior to her evaluation.
So when does the public get the opportunity to speak about the evaluation?
You can contact us at any time and we can put it on the agenda. I've never been one to hold out on not putting things on the agenda.
We're not questioning that. We're
Right,
trying.
so you can
You're
con-
telling us we're wrong. We
You can
we read
contact-
the policies. We read your,
You can contact us at any time and we can put it on there.
But the policy is that the public can comment on anything that is on the agenda in the public comment section, and this is on the agenda for tonight.
But
and
we're
we-
discussing a personnel matter and her,
It's an open session.
contract
And we are
stipulates-
permitted to comment on anything in the open session agenda.
but we're not going to have a discussion about her performance.
We're not looking to discuss it
No.
with you. We're just
making a statement
statement.
to you as the chairperson.
And we expect that the school committee would listen to our statement and reflect that upon
We're
their
not asking for
discussion.
a
and-
discussion.
Right.
But it's not, there's two things that are happening. One, it doesn't give us any time to reflect on it other than about 15 minutes. So I would suggest we either,
But it's our right to
We're not
make a
denying-
statement on anything that is written on the agenda. It is our public right, and
As
it's a
taxpayers.
public agenda. We are here to make a statement on what is written on the agenda. That's your policy. That is the school committee's policy.
Is there a lawyer present?
there's not a lawyer present. So what we can do is we can table it, get an opinion, and then find out when we'll get an opinion on it, and then we can do the review.
I don't think that, the school committee's not trying to,
Circumvent our rights? No,
really, that's where you want to go with this?
yeah.
No, I
sure.
think what we're trying to do is, we had an agenda item to review her performance over the last year. It's the school committee's obligation to do that. And if you have input, I would have liked to have heard it prior to this evening, so that we could all
We
reflect on that.
followed your policy.
Right, we read it. We downloaded it off of your website. We read the policy,
But
and
can I finish just saying what I was going to say?
please do.
I would like to have that discussion prior to the committee members having their evaluation with the superintendent, so that we can actually reflect on what the public is saying. And then include that in there if it's appropriate, or if there are other issues that come out of that, address those issues. As I understand it, tonight is not the night. I'm unclear as to what a statement would do to impact her. Actually, I don't even need to go down that road. I think what we need to do is just find out from our legal counsel what our obligation is regarding that. I was always under the impression it's our reading of our evaluation that was previously done at this point.
And it's our right as a public citizen to come here and make a statement on anything that is listed on the open session agenda for tonight.
But the evaluation hasn't been completed, so you're
That
not.
was what I was trying to get at, is that we hadn't.
We haven't
It's on
come.
your agenda, though.
But
So go
Can
through,
I
walk it
just-
through. So you do the review tonight. That it's the school committee's discussion of her performance, right? So
what we
then-
do this evening is we actually take her review that each of us have sat and met with her
Right,
and read it into the record
right, verbatim,
verbatim. Correct.
right,
And then
and that becomes the minutes.
And that becomes the
becomes.
But I don't
So
think-
when would
I
the
don't think there's any restriction. It's not like a personnel matter that would.
It's not required from your executive session, it's open meeting.
it's
Right.
So I
explicitly?
don't understand why they can't make a statement. I don't. What's? It's,
Well,
it's on the agenda.
it's
I'm
on
not
the
a
ag-
lawyer
it's-
either, but I.
well, this is
I
a thing
understand
that
their
I'm
point
not.
Is like they.
There are two things that are happening.
We're going
that
to
I'm
be
not-
doing it. We're having whether it's building a new stadium at that high school or a superintendent evaluation. What's the difference? They want to make a comment about something that's on the agenda.
I mean, if you want to amend the agenda so that you do that first and then the public speaks after, we're happy to accommodate that.
I guess I'm not. I mean, I don't understand why. It's everything. This is all in public, right? And it's going to be it's an agenda, and we're going to have a conversation about. So if somebody from the public wants to,
No, I understand,
Have
I
a
just thought it
comment.
would, I just thought it should be done after.
the-
Do you have
we
a
had
after
our-
policy
the evaluation,
You know,
upon completion of the review.
well, they're going to have a chance to have this anytime. So why can't you just let them do it now?
This is my first year on the board, but my gut response is, I'm leaning with David, is why not? Why not?
Okay.
I mean,
It's your call.
Yeah. I guess there's a couple caveats. If it's constructive, if it's not bringing up issues that should be brought up with the superintendent and then with the school committee.
Like what? What does that mean?
It's not going to be disparaging. It's not going to be calling it
attack on her.
Yeah,
It is
but
constructive
he asked a question. I'd
criticism.
really like to be able to complete a sentence. It's not disparaging. It's not a personal attack. And it meets our criteria that fall into the evaluation sections that we have.
Which means what?
Did you pull down the evaluation?
I have the 2009 one. Is it the same form?
Yeah, I think.
Probably.
I don't remember changing it.
It's the same standards.
So I just
Yeah.
want to understand. So if we had criticisms, you're saying that's not allowed?
I'm not saying criticisms. I'm saying any comment to her character, judgment, any major issues.
So as long as it falls under the guise of leadership, budget and finance, educational programs and student services, personnel management, communications and public relations, it's fair game. Okay.
Those are the 6 standards.
All right, and you have 5 minutes.
First, we'd like to say that we are certain Superintendent Jacobs performs many parts of her job very well. Based on her past performance evaluations, it seems like the school committee has the positive aspects covered many times over, but has fallen short on evaluating areas requiring improvement. Therefore, we are going to provide objective, fact-based, direct feedback regarding Superintendent Jacobs' performance review. Since Superintendent Jacobs' contract specifically states that she is eligible for an additional merit increase based upon her performance, and that she diligently and faithfully and competently performs the duties of superintendent, it's essential that the school committee look critically and objectively at all sides of the superintendent's performance. As the committee members know, this is your responsibility on behalf of the community. In particular, there are significant issues with the manner in which Georgetown Public Schools provides special education to eligible children of Georgetown. Regarding performance in leadership, the school committee is intimately aware, but I doubt the public is aware, but certainly should be, that the former director of special education, David Dempsey's employment was purposely ended by the...
Excuse me, that's a personnel matter. We
No, it's
cannot
in your
discuss.
minutes.
It's
We're
in your
not
minutes.
discussing it.
Right,
It's
we're
in
not
your minutes.
these are
There's nothing
facts. They're
said
in the
here that's
public
not
domain.
on the website with your minutes.
Right, and Carol issued a statement to the public about performance. As such, the school committee has opted to protect Mr. Dempsey's privacy rights and not disclose the real reasons as to why his employment was terminated. This is a disservice to the taxpayers and prevents objective evaluation of the superintendent. Moreover, during Mr. Dempsey's 28-month tenure, he spent more than $108,000 on special education legal fees, a glaring indication that he was ineffective in performing his duties. Mr. Dempsey was a direct report of Superintendent Jacobs while employed at GPS. Therefore, she was directly responsible for this misuse of public funds. During Mr. Dempsey's employment within Georgetown, the district experienced numerous significant problems within special education. Specifically, GPS was found to have multiple violations of student rights by the Massachusetts Bureau of Special Education and Appeals and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Again, as a direct report of the superintendent, it is a disservice to the community to say that she is somehow not responsible for these events and that they bear no weight on her performance evaluation. As of today, GPS is even involved in ongoing litigation and facing multiple cases of further civil rights violations and subject to child abuse claims, all of which must be accounted for here and now. Regarding rating for these categories, regarding performance of personnel management, during the 2011 and 2012 school year, I have personally had to involve the Massachusetts Attorney General's Office, the Bureau of Special Education of Appeals, the DESE Program Quality Assurance, the United States Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, and even the Georgetown Police Department to ensure that GPS provided for my son in a safe and effective manner. Superintendent Jacobs has been directly involved in all of these matters. While she has stated repeatedly that GPS should be compliant with state and federal laws, her actions regarding personnel management suggest otherwise. Moreover, my experiences concern just one student. I'm certain if the public were fully aware of the severity and frequency of problems within GPS, the tone of this evaluation would be radically different. Quite simply, compliance with special education law is viewed as optional in GPS. And when these
We have to draw the line there.
Okay, good. I'll continue then. And when these problems
We
continue,
have about 30 seconds.
when a community puts people in charge of managing public funds, those people must honor that responsibility with professional discretion. They must treat that money like it's their own, and they must make wise investments and understand the risks that they are exposing. Those people in charge are also legally responsible to provide an appropriate education to all children and not dismiss their social and legal responsibilities to children who require special education. The district special education department under the
All
supervision.
right, that's 5 minutes.
We feel somewhat censored in our opinion and feel that the school committee is somewhat protecting Carol Jacobs from public comment. And I will leave it at that.
You're welcome to submit that to us, and we'll include it in our next packet, and everyone will have an opportunity to review it.
So you interrupted me twice, so do I get 30 seconds back?
I gave you 30 more.
If you take your statement and submit it to the office, that will go into our packet for the May 10th meeting, so then we will actually have a chance to read it ahead of time
And discuss it with
and
her.
discuss it.
I need to ask,
Yeah.
why 5 minutes?
That's
Why,
allotted.
why 5 minutes? Because we have an agenda that is absolutely packed this evening.
I do know that, yeah, I do know that.
So everybody speaks publicly gets a 5-minute constraint.
Well, I think
Actually,
it's up,
usually,
They
it's
are
up to the
allowed to give
discretion
an
of the chair, I
exception.
believe, according to Robert's rules, right?
right. Yeah, we usually do about 2 to 3 minutes.
Right, and to us, it's clear that from the beginning of this, that you were not in favor of hearing our statement, so.
It's not whether I'm in favor of it. I'm wondering the outcome that's expected with short notice.
Because it was on the agenda and we followed your policy.
It's called. I
Right,
know,
but
it's
you
called-
can't-
But
It's
called-
the discretion of the chair. You can't come in here and spend a half an hour
Sure.
pleading your, whatever, that's,
Understood.
okay?
Yep.
So,
And
5 minutes, we gave you 5 minutes to, I think that's.
and we
in a-
appreciate
So
the
we will file our statement, like Dan suggested, and so you can read it and you can digest it, and then you can reflect upon that for the completion of her evaluation.
correct. And that gives us time to read it and actually think about it, as opposed to we could read it into the record this evening, and that's it.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
So do you want to do Chris next?
Yeah, Mr. DeFranco is up for athletics.
Do you want to do the recognition of Frank Goldberg first, though? Because that's quick. I don't know how long the athletic discussion's gonna go.
Oh, yeah, actually, good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chris, hold on 1 minute.
Hold on, Chris, I'm sorry, we're just doing a little.
We're just doing,
switch
we
here.
might do just a tiny switch.
All right.
And then Joan's here too, so.
Okay, without objection, I'd like to move, the order that we have this evening to recognize, Mr. Frank Goldberg for an award that he received. And then we'll flip right back over to Mr. DeFranco. So
Come on up, and come on up, Amanda. So, I recently learned that Mr. Goldberg was the recipient, how do you say the
National Society of High School Scholars.
but is it the Klaus Claes?
Claes.
The Claes Nobel Educator of Distinction Award. And I learned that he had received it, so I thought, well, this would be great for not only the school committee to know about, but for the public to know about. And I think that one of the best things about it, from my perspective as an educator for many, many years, is that when a student thinks enough of your work as a teacher to nominate you to an event, to an award like this, I think doesn't really get a whole lot better than this. So I thought it would be nice to be able to invite Amanda and Mr. Goldberg to the school committee meeting. Maybe, Amanda, if you're comfortable, just maybe say a couple of words about, why you did it and what you thought was.
Well, I mean, I remember since I started in 6th grade, all the way up to high school, I've always hated English. I hated it. Did not like it at all. And, you know, I got to high school, I had Mr. Goldberg, and he, like, made it fun for us, you know. It was something that I would get to class and I'd be like, yes, I have English next, you know. And so, you know, I had journalism with him. I have Cine Literacy with him now. And he just takes so much pride in his work. He's always happy. When I see him in the hallways, you know, hi, how are you? Good morning. You know, you just don't get enough teachers like him, so.
So then you took the opportunity to, how did you find out about this award? And
Well, they, I guess the school nominated me for this, this society, and then I started doing some research. I applied, I got in, and then they asked me to, if I would nominate a teacher for outstanding, I don't know, and I guess I really wanted Mr. Goldberg to be.
yeah. And then the group or the panel or whatever discussed it and agreed with you that he was deserving of this award. You know, and I can personally say that, you know, I have the great pleasure to work with Mr. Goldberg on a regular basis, and I do see what the students see. You know, I think, you know, he is someone who, you know, has gone above and beyond. He's also someone who attends outside events that the students are involved in. He doesn't just, you know, come into every day and do his job as a teacher. It extends well beyond that, and you know, it is with really great pleasure that we have the opportunity to recognize you tonight, Frank. Thank you for all you do. And Amanda, thank you so much for taking the time. I know, as I said, as a teacher, when you get, you know, something from a student, you don't forget it. And it means a lot. It means a lot. And too often we do the work and we don't hear it. So when someone thinks that, you know, it's impacted their life in such a way that they want to have somebody recognized, I think that says a lot about you as well, that you would take the time to do that. So,
And
any questions
I
or
have a
comments?
comment. What grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Oh, so is my son Mike in the literacy?
Mike.
I think
Bjork.
he is. Anyway,
Mike
I just
Bjork.
wanted, oh, I'm sorry, you
He's
didn't know
in
who I
our
am.
journalism class.
I just want to make a comment to because my kids are in high school and one's in college.
Yeah.
And they all have had Mr. Goldberg,
Oh.
and in fact, they come back to ask him to write letters of recommendation for college. And so, personally, I appreciate what you do. And we see him at the basketball games, we see him at the football
Yeah,
games.
yeah, he's everywhere.
So,
So thank you for making English fun. That's pretty impressive.
It is an important subject, for sure.
If I could have a minute.
Yes, absolutely, Frank.
I received an email last year that Amanda had recommended me, and I was shocked, but not surprised. I've known Amanda since she was a 6th grader. She used to come into my senior classes, and actually junior class, because her brother Ricky was a student of mine his junior and senior year. So I'd just like to thank Amanda, but she is the perfect representation of what all of us at Georgetown High School do. Administrators, school committee people, the faculty. We are invested in these young men and women, and this award is really a reflection of Amanda and her family, and it could be any number of my colleagues who would be up here tonight, because there is a love that we have for this profession, and nights like this make it all worthwhile.
Well, thank you for making the time.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you for families coming to support them as well.
As you're getting up and walking, that's fine. I just wanted to, the two of you, for me, epitomize everything that is what is so special and unique and wonderful about school, community, family. I can't thank you enough personally.
All three aspects of what you just said go into what we do every day. I see Matt every day.
Yeah.
Was pleased to write recommendations for him, know that he's going to be a wonderful pilot. Amanda and her family ought to be credited. This young lady travels to Georgetown. It's her choice. She's here early. She's there late every single day. She has gotten the most out of everything that we all have to offer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very nice.
you.
Thank you
Thank you very
again.
much.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good luck. Okay, moving back to our regular agenda. Mr. DeFranco. Okay. So, we're here to talk about athletics.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. Very nice.
And I'm pausing just for a second because we're gonna have to get into readjusting the budget, and it will, everything's kind of on the table right now. So I think the best thing to do is proceed with what you have prepared, and then later on, when we get into budget and finance, we'll talk more about that, so we might have to have further discussion, later, whatever, however that plays out.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So essentially, for the athletic budget, I came up with two different plans that both accomplish the same budget number that I was given. Both of them have, sort of positives and negatives to them. The first, so Plan A, would level our user fees. So currently, we have a two-tiered system where some sports pay less and some sports pay more. The middle school sports this year would have paid $225. So, I'm sorry, $250. So that number would just be leveled at $350, which would go with what was approved for the tier 1 sports, if we're going to call them that. Doing that would save middle school basketball. We basically, if we don't do that, we won't be able to run middle school basketball. We just lose too much money. So that's option A. Option B, basically the same budget, just cutting middle school boys and girls basketball. And if we do that, we end up at about the same number. So either way, I'm fine with. I think it's really up to the committee to decide, do we want to cut sports? And I personally don't like the idea of cutting sports, but I realize that, there are a lot of opportunities for kids at the middle school level to play in GAA and travel, and, it might be redundant to have the sport.
What's the total savings if we, option A keeps middle school basketball, did you
Yes,
say?
but it increases the user fee to the high school level.
Is there girls' middle school basketball?
There is. Yep.
You increase the user fee to $350, okay.
So that would also include wrestling,
Wrestling,
cheering. Those would go up to
Yep, any of the
Everything,
everything would be the same.
there wouldn't be any difference, okay.
Where Plan B, you'd still have the 2 tiers.
Okay.
And you're recommending what, Chris?
I would personally go with the leveling the user fee, just because that.
Option 1?
Yeah, option 1, just because it saves a sport or 2 sports, and we know that once we cut a sport, it's almost impossible to get it back.
Right.
Both options cut middle school field hockey.
Yes, that is just a loss of money, really low numbers, and it's, those kids can play on the freshman team by and large, so that's a failing sport. I don't see that one being savable.
Can you just clarify for me or elaborate for me on why is basketball more money than football?
Busing mostly.
Mostly busing.
Yeah,
The
busing.
roster.
More games.
More
don't we?
games.
More games. Yeah, that's what I mean by busing. That we have more games. We have
Okay.
more refs because of that.
Okay.
We have game administrators who are there at all the home games. So
Okay.
there's a lot of cost to it.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's surprising.
Yeah. Makes sense.
We should all consider or think about when we're looking at this. We never like to raise user fees because we've always been of the mindset that it precludes student athletes from participating. What was interesting this year is we lowered the user fees and the participation rate went down. I don't know what that means. I
No,
just
I
want to
don't.
call it out that
Right.
what we thought was going to happen did not, in fact, happen. But we're definitely trending downward in participation. I don't. Questions or comments on that?
Where is that, where are you getting that number?
Plan A, page 1, 565, 551, 529. Oh, it's in sum up, that's why. Maybe it's
Where?
on the page. It's on the total.
Chris, the email we got recently regarding middle school track, does that impact
It'll
this?
be page 2.
Or the co-op with Ipswich, that doesn't affect
That
this?
doesn't.
Yep.
No, because our user fees go.
It's,
Then go to the
okay,
next page.
Ipswich gets the user.
Yes.
We went from 580, I'm sorry, 520.
565 to, I'm sorry, yeah, 565 to 551 to 529.
Yep.
Still not seeing it. Can you show me where that is?
487.
Oh, it does, he just said 529, what?
It's next page. First page.
When you're looking at Dave.
Right here at the bottom, Carol, he's looking at. He's
So wait, 529?
529 to 487.
Okay.
So we lost about 43.
But did we lose any sports? Did we, was there middle school soccer this
We
year?
tried
We
to
haven't had
do
middle school
Middle
soccer.
school
That was
soccer
already
is,
had it for years.
that doesn't run for 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is another part of it, is we are looking at ways to increase athletic participation. One of-
But, as a parent that has athletes, I can think of some things like football, for example. There were only like 33 kids total in
Right.
football this year.
Right.
And that's because we lost a lot of kids who didn't play for whatever reason, and I heard that a lot of them are going to be coming back this year. At least that's what my son's
That
telling
would
me.
be great.
Mm-hmm.
So, basketball's always maxed out.
Right.
We know that.
on the boys level, on the girls level.
On the
it's not.
boys level.
Right.
Yeah, the
it's
girls did, because it was mostly 8th graders playing freshmen.
It was all 8th graders
All
playing
8th graders, yeah.
But
So-
the freshmen, or the middle school team's full?
They are. The boys level definitely was. The girls level was close. I think it might have been 13 out of the 15.
Okay.
So I don't know what to make of it. I mean,
Yeah.
my 2 boys didn't play lacrosse this year because they had other things that they wanted to do, so,
Right.
I mean, it
And that
wasn't
happens sometimes.
yeah, so.
Any other questions, comments? We're scheduled.
We're not gonna vote on this
we,
tonight.
We can't vote on this tonight. If our budget hadn't changed last night, I think we could have had a healthier discussion and actually vote on it. I don't feel that we should
Not up
vote
last
on it
night.
right now.
I
No,
would
you have to
agree
think
because
about
Right,
what
we
you-
have a
we
few
don't-
things we're
we
gonna have
have-
to
Have a number
think
of
about,
things to
so
think
we have a
just,
lot
Yeah.
to think about.
but if people feel strongly about something,
Yeah.
they should raise it.
No.
Okay. So we will,
But
take,
I guess what I did hear is you recommended A.
A.
Is that correct?
I recommend A, just
Okay.
because you
I-
aren't losing a sport.
I just want to make sure. Right.
okay.
Yeah, and I agree with that, just my personal point of view, that I know there's other opportunities like with GAA and basketball, but the advantage of middle school basketball for boys and girls is you practice every day.
Right.
Yeah.
And GA, you have like one practice and one game a week.
And you play for your school. And that's
we play for
important
the
to the
school, but I
kids.
think it's just the amount of time that you get to spend getting instruction is really important as you're trying to develop kids to be moving on to the high school.
I agree. However, the next discussion we're gonna have is about our budget. We're reaching a point where it's great to have it, and I heard Nee ask last year with it's co-curricular, not extracurricular.
Mhm.
However, we're reaching a point of affordability now. But that's for the next section.
Okay.
All right.
So Chris will be invited to come back, or?
Chris, when we figure out what we're doing with the budget and how this is all gonna play out, we'll have you come back and we'll talk further about it. We won't keep bringing you back and back.
You
for
could just
that.
Skype me in.
I like that Skype.
So
We
the-
could.
The purpose is not to keep dragging you back and forth. Just this all played out.
I understand how it works.
In the last 24 hours.
Can I ask him a question that's
Absolutely.
not about this, but very quickly, it's switching gears, but athletics. Do you have a policy that there is ice ready for injuries at every sporting event?
We do, yeah. We have an ice machine that the coaches all have access
That's
to.
all.
Yep.
But it's there at the event?
It's in the school, and the coaches are supposed to get ice out of the machine before every practice and game.
Because my point that I just wanted to make is that literally within the first 5 minutes, if you get the ice on the injury, and I'm sure you guys all know
Sure.
that, but if it's somewhere else and you got to go get it, the recovery time after the next 48 hours is doubled.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They're supposed to get ice from the machine before their
Okay.
games and practices. So.
Cool. That's all.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you very much. So we already did Mr. Goldberg, so next up is a Pearly roof update.
Yeah, I just wanted to, many people have asked me, what's happening with the roof at Pearly? Is it going to be rebuilt, or what is the plan? So I just wanted the committee and the public to know that that process is in the planning stages at this point. It's actually scheduled, there's a Charles Sacra, who is an engineer working with the insurance company. Mr. Sacra was involved when the roof partially collapsed. He was involved with us in, talking about what the remedy would be. So he's been assigned to be sort of the lead person, the contact on this project. And then Diversified Construction Services, LLC. They are out of Amherst, Massachusetts. David Marley is the general contractor. He's actually come out couple times and met with Margaret, myself. He's been in touch with Mike Anderson. And the plan has been to lay out a task and timeline list. The goal here would be for the project to start really the day after school closes, on or about June 15th, and it would take the entire summer. So they have assured us, though, that the project will be done in time for the students to return. And there won't be construction vehicles and all of those things around the building. One impact that it is having, as I pointed out in the orange notes, is that the Pearly Pals program that we run in the summer is going to be located for this year only to the Pembroke School. There's been a lot of planning from the program staffs, along with Kath Estep, interim director. The principals have been very involved, and the plan is to set up the classrooms, similarly as they are now. There'll be much of the equipment will be moved over. There are a couple of glitches with the playground equipment at this point in time, but there's work being done on how to rectify that if it's possible. The roof will be restored, or will return to the same design, so it will be a pitched roof using similar style shingle and painting of the exterior below it. And it will meet all the current codes. So certainly the trusses will probably be constructed, delivered here, and it's constructed on site and then lifted onto the building. And obviously, many people have asked about will the snow load, will be able to handle any kind of a snow load. So obviously, that's coming up to current code, which I believe is standard operating procedure now. Mike Anderson will serve as the liaison to the project. And if you have any particular questions that you would like me to speak to Mr. Sacra about, be happy to do that. Again, as I said, they come out periodically and lay out, step by step, stage by stage, what the project, is going to involve.
And this is the roof over the
first grade wing.
Okay, and this is separate from the slate roof.
Yes.
Which is on the historic
Yes,
section
actually,
of the building.
that is coming up at town meeting.
Right.
The funding for that, and I believe it has been recommended by the CPC. That work, however, would not be done this summer.
Okay, so we're only doing the
We're
first
only
grade
doing
wing.
the first grade wing. Yep.
Okay, this summer. Okay.
Yep. So if you have any questions, please feel
And
free.
Pembroke is all set for Pearly Pals to move over
Yes,
there for the summer. There's
yes.
no building issue, like, they
No,
have enough
no, they've
space?
identified the spaces.
Okay.
Yep, they've identified all of that.
All right.
This may be.
It wouldn't, obviously, it wouldn't be our preference, but in talking with Mr. Sacra and the Mr. Marley, the fact that the equipment's going to be
There's not
going
enough
back
room
and
over there to
forth,
be moving
and they're actually going to set up a bunch of scaffolding out back, and
Yeah.
they requested that there not be any activities that involve students, if possible, in the building
Okay.
this year.
Alrighty, moving right along. Director of Finance and Operations, Joan?
Yes, Joan, come on
Come
up.
on up.
Okay, so in your packet, you have a resume for Joan, and an employment agreement that Ann and I have been speaking with Joan about. Because the finance director position is a joint appointment, we always invite the candidate to come forward and just, talk with the committee, give you a chance. Maybe Joan can just talk a little bit about why this job is very interesting to her, and what she hopes to do here. And then if you have any specific questions, that would be fine. But we're excited to have Joan interested in the position, and she is our recommendation. And as I said, Anne had some time to speak with her as well, so.
We tried to have a face-to-face
We-
meeting, but that
it was
just didn't
difficult to
work
get the
out.
time
We didn't try
frame.
Skype.
Yeah, we didn't try
Yeah, you
Skype.
know, that's a good
You're right,
point.
we
We
didn't,
did,
Joan.
didn't we?
So as you can see from Joan's resume, she is a certified business official, right? And she's currently working in Newmarket, but that is a long commute for you,
Very long.
like an hour and a half one way. But her experience, is both in the areas of personnel management as well as budget and finance, which is particularly interesting to us, particularly in a small district. There isn't a person in particular who can help us with the human resources. So Joan brings, both of those backgrounds to the table. So maybe, Joan, do you want to,
Sure.
same thing as an introduction?
Sure. As you can see by the resume, I've worked in a public school district probably, I don't know, 25 years. I don't know exactly. But most of my career was in Beverly, but I started as a secretary in the SPED office. Worked my way up, was encouraged to go back to school, went back to school once, started doing personnel, because in their wisdom at that point, they had cut the assistant superintendent's position, and I kind of was picking up the slack of all the paperwork. They said, well, if you go back to school, we'd love to make you a director of personnel, whatever. So I did. And then I took a position just for 1 year in another community, and it actually gave me an opportunity to work on the budget. We had to redo our budget, go to town meeting. It was a new experience for me because in Beverly, we're in a city. They pretty much tell you what your budget is, and then you work around it. Whereas when I went to the other community, it was a town. So it was very different. Go to town meeting. I had never been at any experience like that. And there was some questions about the budget. So we had to, the business manager and I and the assistant superintendent had to put a budget quickly together. So I learned that piece. So when the business manager in Beverly was leaving, I was encouraged to apply back. And I think that 1 year of different experience and seeing the budgeting piece helped me to move into that position. And I went back to school and got my MBA. And made some personal decisions about leaving that city and went to a little town I never heard of it before, a little town in New Hampshire, which is really just a little college town outside of UNH. And
Anne knows it.
Yeah, no, wow.
so that really gave me a different experience because the town I was in before was a big town with a big budget, the same size as I had typically in Beverly. And so where it's very similar, I talked to Carol, it's very similar experience because we're an SB2 town, New Hampshire language, and we had to go to a couple of deliberative sessions, and they can add to your budget, they can take away from your budget, they can totally redo your budget, and if the voters support it, everything changes, and then you have to change everything. So it's been an experience. It's been an experience to go to New Hampshire because everything is totally different. There's not many regulations. There's none of the bidding. You can kind of do what you want, live free or die. I've learned, and it's very different from Massachusetts. And I'm looking to get closer, but I really liked the small. When Carol asked if I was applying in other districts, I applied in one other district, but it was a small district, even though there's a ton of business manager positions open in Massachusetts right now. There's some really big districts. There's a lot of regionals. But I really liked my experience in Newmarket. I liked the small. We have 2 schools, just like you. We have a junior, senior high school that's a combined school, and an elementary school. And I think we have 1,100 kids who are a little bit smaller, although our budget is a little larger.
Shocking.
Yeah. So that's what kind of drew me to Georgetown. I live in Beverly, so it's 25 minutes today. So.
Oh, great.
Big difference. And when I took the position in Newmarket, gas was in the 2-something range and went up over $1 a gallon. So it's been an experience.
It becomes a quality of life issue after a while, right? When you takes that much time in the car.
Right.
So do you have anybody have any questions?
I just had a question that I meant to ask you, and you touched on it today, and it's just more of personal interest. When you have your budget reviewed in the sessions that you just mentioned, can they actually adjust your line items, or are they just adjusting your bottom line?
They actually make suggestions to adjust line items.
Okay.
And that's at the budget committee level and the
Right.
deliberative session. However, when the bottom line is voted, the school board up there, and the superintendent work together to decide really where the cut should be for educational purposes, because
Okay.
they wiped out, one of the budget committee members decided that they didn't think technology should be in the hands of anything below an 8th grader. I think I might have said that to you on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And had recommended cutting out a lot of our technology budget. And we're just getting to be where we need to
Okay.
be. And it really decimated us. So we went back and looked at it, and we made some other cuts in some other areas that we thought were more appropriate and wouldn't hurt the education.
So you took the bucket that he wiped out,
Right.
restored it, and took from other
Right,
buckets,
because
if you will.
really, the law up in New Hampshire is they vote the bottom line.
Okay, that's
Yeah, that's what you
similar
were
to the-
asking.
yeah.
That's similar to Massachusetts.
Massachusetts is
Yeah.
just the total.
So yeah, I mean, and from, in their opinion, you know, they have a different philosophy. They don't really think, they want to go back to books, and they think that until 8th grade, students can't handle the technology.
Right.
And I said, well, we had computers in preschool, so.
Sometimes
bit
it's priorities, yeah, and that's the purpose of boards and discussions and, yeah, setting priorities, working together. Okay, anybody
Alright.
else with any
Anyone have
questions?
I want to ask you a question. What do you see as your biggest challenge from the experience you've had right now?
Not having enough money.
Okay, second. Just in terms of the management and what you have to do and.
The biggest awakening for me coming to a little town of Georgetown was the lack of support that one has in central office. You don't have a secretary, you have one payroll person, you have one accounts payable person, and the secretary to the, that's it. So if you want something done, you do it yourself, or
Okay.
everybody chips in to help.
Yeah.
So there's really lack of support, but it's the money portion. And I understand it's a little town with not a lot of commercial tax base.
I didn't mean to make light of the money. It's just that
No,
I'm right there. with
you're
you.
absolutely correct. You know, money is a major issue. You know, that's why
Okay.
I think hiring a person like Joan is really going to be something that that Georgetown needs, because she's an experienced person. She has the city side experience, and I also worked for the city of Peabody and the town of Burlington, so I can tell you, working in a city is much easier than it is working for a town.
Much easier.
Easier. Because you deal with the city council and a mayor, and you're done. You don't deal with
All this other-
town meeting and things of that nature. So it's much easier, in my opinion. So I think having a person with Joan's experience coming in with both city and town experience is going to be an asset to the Georgetown School Committee. So I know Joan from having been in this business a long time, and I think Carol's made a good choice.
I wasn't going to put you on the spot quite like that, but I thank you for the extra there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Dave, do you have any questions?
I'm just curious, the North Shore community, what is an AS?
Oh, it's associates
Associates?
science, yeah, degree.
So you had for like 20 years work, that's not on here.
Yeah, well, I went to college, obviously. When I graduated high school, I got an associate's in science degree, and I worked numerous places, you know, and then I got married, and then I went back to work, and that was my first experience in Beverly. It was in 1989 when I went back to work. So, I mean, I had different experiences. I worked in the Superior Courthouse, I worked in the State House, I worked at Analogic. You know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then, of course, I got married, so things changed. So the opening opened up at the school department, and my kids were little, and I went, oh, great. I'll wait for a part-time position at one of the schools to open. I went to central office. I'll wait till a part-time position opens, and then I'm off summers with my kids. Well, 20 whatever years later, there were many openings, and you know, you get in there, I started as a secretary in the SPED office. I did that for like 3 or 4 years, and I was encouraged by the business manager. She had an opening at the time to move in to do accounts payable and grants. I did that. Then I was encouraged by the assistant superintendent 2 years later to move over and do the assistant for him and do personnel, and then they didn't fill that position. And that's kind of how the story went.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ann?
That's it.
No, I've talked with you a number of times. I've talked with Carol. I appreciate that. I've done my own research, and so.
All right. So at this point, we need to vote. We vote to approve or appoint, and then.
That's right. That's the point.
But not the contract.
Okay.
Correct. We do that in executive session. Just so that everyone's clear on that. So the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Joan Laporto as the next business manager beginning on or about July 1st, 2012, pending successful contract negotiations.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Oh, sorry.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Joan.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
All right, so I'm going to
Welcome
hang around
aboard.
to listen to the budget part. I may not stay for the whole meeting,
Yeah.
but I thought I'd listen to
No,
the budget
maybe you
part.
want to leave before you hear that part of it.
I think it would be great if you do.
Well, I'm going to.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
was,
Thank you,
yeah,
Joan.
being sarcastic. All right.
Listen, talk about the other one.
What was that?
One that you left on the table, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, when do you want to, when do you want to talk about the, she's talking about the Director of Special Education
Yeah.
recommendation.
How's,
Well, it was on the agenda.
right.
It was on the agenda.
And
You know, we
what were their
conducted,
logistics and-
we conducted a process that included, obviously, review of records. We had a small steering committee that screened through them, narrowed down the pool, I guess you'd say. We then had a second committee, you know, kind of expanded committee that met with the candidates. We then narrowed it down to 3 finalists. Actually, I think we had 4, but one who was from New Hampshire, actually moving to Massachusetts, was able to find us a job closer to Massachusetts, but still in New Hampshire. So she removed herself from the pool. We then set up site interviews, and during those site interviews, again, we brought the candidates here as opposed to going, you know, we figured if we're going to get a greater value, we felt having people come here was going to be of greater value than. Right. So we set up a series of meetings, and the candidates all had the opportunity to go to each school, to visit each program, to talk with various people at the school. And then it all culminated in the afternoons with a session. The group varied a little bit, but it was 5 to 6 parents who had expressed interest in coming and being part of it. Pam Lundquist, as the PAC chair, was involved in the process, even at the screening and initial interview level. And then at the point at which we were setting up the site visits, she was so gracious as to, you know, invite parents, and people could say they'd like to be part of it, and then they were able to come in. So there were some people who were at every one, and then there were others that were able to come for 1 or 2. After each visit, I collected feedback, you know, pros and cons, you know, and the strong favorite was the last woman we spoke with. Her name is Donna Straight. We had actually hoped to Skype her in, but we weren't able to quite make all the connections. Currently, she is well, you see from her resume. She Laura, did you give them the resume? Yes. Okay. You see from
No.
no, they think, okay, so
Joan.
you have Joan, okay. She is currently the Director of Special Education in Battle Creek, Michigan School District. It's a significantly bigger district than Georgetown, but she has been doing that for a couple of years. She is a New Englander. She was actually raised in this area, North Shore, I think somewhere between, what did I tell, Tewksbury or one of those, Tewksbury, I think it was. Her relatives are all in that area. She spent a lot of her time in New Hampshire, working as an administrator of student services. She was also an assistant principal who had the responsibility for special education in the building. She was special education teacher and caseworker. And
No,
she
my,
did.
my question was really just,
The
are we
contract.
gonna discuss the contract today in executive session?
Well, the thing, I just wanted to make sure you knew, like,
Okay.
who we were talking about
Yeah.
quickly.
Okay.
You know, Ann and I did speak about this, because one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure that if we're going to offer her the job in a contract, we want to do that now. Because if we don't do that, what is her incentive to continue to feel that Georgetown is, the district where she's going to
So,
come?
are we talking about this
We're talking about the contract. You want to talk about the contract executive session. I thought Laura had included
Yep.
and just so you know, it was on the agenda, but on Friday when we were preparing the packet, I hadn't heard officially from Donna that she was going to accept the position. So I pulled it from the packet. And then on Monday, heard from her that she was interested in accepting the position. Obviously, the packets were already out. So I can give you more of her background, but she was the unanimous recommendation.
and she's interested
And
in the
she's,
position?
and she's very interested in the position, based on our discussions back and forth with her regarding a contract.
Okay.
The contract that you're gonna review tonight is satisfactory to her. And, she's very interested in being the next special education director in Georgetown, and I think we need an experienced director. We liked her style very much, and her experience would indicate that, she can handle the job that we have.
When, and she's available to start
She's available
1.
July 1st, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving right along. Middle school.
Brian here?
We're not,
Brian,
We're not doing middle school.
yeah,
Okay, high school.
high school, we have Peter.
High school handbook, Peter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to see you guys here. We've missed you the last few meetings. I'm sure you've missed being here.
Peter was at Dancing with the Stars at the last meeting.
My finest performance.
I'm beginning to think that you guys are purposefully scheduling that on school committee meeting nights.
No, actually, the pros usually they teach all the time,
Right.
and Thursdays like the night they can do it. So
And it just happens to be the first Tuesday,
Second
second
Tuesday.
Tuesday that they're
The
able
second
to do.
Thursday.
Or second Thursday,
I
excuse
have
me.
no part in determining that date.
Yeah, when Peter said the days you're killing me,
Yeah.
And he said he would go back and check, and I think they really, really tried, and
Yeah.
it just wasn't
Yeah, we
possible
did.
to make the
Yeah.
change.
I'm giving you a hard time. All right, high school handbook.
Okay, high school handbook. We follow the same process that we do every year. We have a committee of parents, students, teachers, and an administrator, and they review the handbook and come up with suggestions. They make those suggestions to the school council. The school council takes a vote and it advises me, and then I bring it forward to you. So that is the process. Most of the things in here are cosmetic. For example, we updated as our program of studies changes and our graduation requirements change. We've updated those. That's the first item. Cafeteria pricing. The code blue and fire drill procedures. We did not have the code blue in the handbook, so we included that, and we added some language for the fire drills in terms of what the students are to do between classes if there was a fire alarm between the classes. So although we communicate with the students about that regularly throughout the year, it wasn't in the book, so we added that. I guess the brief story on the electronic device policy. The committee suggested a policy to the school council. The school council was not in agreement with that and sent them back to actually form a specific subcommittee on electronic devices, and we're going to be researching what some other schools are doing now. And it's just to give you a hint, it's more of a relaxation. We want kids to be able to use their cell phones and other kinds of devices for educational purposes, in the classroom at the teacher's discretion. I know that's a biggie for me to swallow.
I'm
Peter, I'm worried about you. I'm really worried about you.
But in order to do that, whatever policies that we come up with regard to that, we have to adjust our acceptable use policy. And we have to do that anyway because of our wireless network now. So that's a work in progress, and I don't really want to put a timetable on it because I want to do it right, not rush it. We would hope to have something before you, perhaps right at the end of the summer, but we really want to study it well. And usually I go to a leadership institute in the summertime with almost all the principals in Massachusetts, and there's a number of workshops on this, and I like to see what other people are doing too. So we have done things like this in the past where we've had in the handbook that this policy is subject to change, and we've put an amendment out when we have gotten to it. So it is not unusual to have something like this, but that's why that says it's under review. Next one is the tardy to school. Our practice is that if you come in without a note after 8 o'clock, we always call your parents. But the handbook says 7:45. I don't know how that happened, but we're adjusting the handbook to the practice.
What time do you have to be in school? And I apologize.
You have to be in
students
your
there.
school starts at 7:30.
At 7:30. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So there.
So
are,
that makes sense to have a half hour.
Usually, the reason why we do that, if you're coming in at 7:40, your parent usually knows. If you're coming in a half an hour late, most of the time they don't know that you came in that late. So we like to let them know. And finally, an adjustment to the consequences for being tardy. The book policies currently read that you get a detention from the 4th unexcused tardy through the 7th, and we're kind of breaking it up a little bit for more of a progressive discipline kind of thing. So the 4th and 5th you would get 1 detention, 6th and 7th 2 detentions, and we think that we need some kind of progression between 1 detention and suspension. So that's it.
What's the school committee's jurisdiction, if any, with this? In terms, we don't vote on anything.
Yeah,
do we?
you have to
At
approve
the
it.
end, we
You have
are.
to approve the handbook.
The handbook for each
If
school.
there's something in it.
You actually have to
don't
approve
like,
the
we
9
would
through
discuss
12
it, send
handbook,
it
Rob.
back.
Okay, well, then, with that, what are the reasons, I'm just curious, that they're suggesting bringing their mobile phones into the classroom?
I think that it's a constant battle that with cell phones today in all schools, with kids that our current policy is that they're supposed to be often concealed. That is rarely the case. It's a constant battle, and we are moving more and more toward, and many school districts are, to a one-to-one initiative where every student has some type of computing device, and that's certainly the direction that I would like to see this school go as soon as it can. So this is a step in that direction, and in order to do that, we have to rethink our restrictive policies that we have there.
Okay, thanks, I was just curious.
Dave, any questions? Ann? Okay. All right, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the revisions to the parent-student handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along to the athletic handbook.
I've asked Chris to come, since he chaired that committee, I asked him to come and give you a summary of those changes, so Chris?
So I'll just walk you through. We basically made it more user-friendly. I don't know if you've ever tried to use it before, but it wasn't very user-friendly. So now it has page numbers and hyperlinks, which is exciting.
Is that the 20th century or?
I think it might be the late 19th.
Yeah, okay.
We changed sub-varsity. We're talking about 8th graders playing on JV and varsity sports. We changed sub-varsity to high school teams, because we actually do have 8th graders on our cross-country team at the varsity level because there is no JV level. So an 8th grader can't jump, you know, a JV player to varsity, but they can potentially play varsity if there is no JV team.
Okay.
So that wasn't really clear before, so we just clarified that.
Grader, if there's spot there, you would fill a varsity if.
On
you have
a sport like cross-country where it's non-cut, they can't take someone's spot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we're looking at potentially doing that with wrestling this year because it would be the same situation where they might fill a weight class that no one else can.
Okay.
So we changed that. We added in a middle school philosophy that was not included in the previous version of the handbook, and it basically is, you know, the freshman level, but closer to equal playing time. No weekend practices, no practice over vacation, that sort of thing. Tryouts, and this is where we need to be really clear. Under no circumstance may an 8th grader displace a high school athlete. So we can't have an 8th grader on varsity if the JV team exists. We can't have an 8th grader on JV if a freshman team exists. It just wasn't clear before, so now it is. Same thing on the waiver process. Our vacation policy, we relaxed a little bit. Before we had mandatory suspensions of players who went away over vacation. We're leaving that to the discretion of the coach now. So we just thought that because it wasn't really consistently followed, that it's better to leave that in the hands of the coach.
I think that's good.
So you apparently understand it. So it's not consistently left in the hands of the coach. Is that
Well,
it?
What happens is some coaches the kid would go away for vacation, come back and start the next game.
He's a star player.
Right, and they're
Yeah.
supposed to be suspended by the handbook policy. So
That really
Wasn't
fair.
consistently
And it wasn't
enforced.
fair.
But the way it's written is it says that the player may sit out,
exactly.
which
So
implies
Coach
that.
has discretion.
Coach has discretion. Before it was must
So
sit
what?
out.
Oh, must sit out.
It was the equal number of games that they missed.
It's up to the individual
Okay.
coach now as opposed to the school's policy.
Got it.
And it wasn't
Got it.
enforced across the board, so
Exactly.
there were perceived inequities.
Right.
I'm guessing.
Got it. Okay.
On the letters, we just added in that if a player is academically disqualified or removed from a team, they can't go to the banquet because if you did. This year,
Really?
yes.
Go ahead.
Concussions, this is just consistent with what you guys already approved, so I'm not going to read the whole concussion policy,
Okay.
but that is our concussion policy. And then if you go to number 9, our user fees are obviously going to change potentially.
Again.
And our student assessment of concussion waiver is added, and that's the pre-concussion screening that we're doing now.
The SAC or whatever they call it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great name for it. Dave, Rob, any questions?
No.
Ann? Nope. All right, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the changes to the athletic handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
They're being awful nice to me tonight.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, very much.
Thanks, gentlemen. I
All
use
right,
that
any
term
questions
loosely.
On the, let's see, any questions on the superintendent's information for the committee? All right, you guys all saw the Whittier budget?
Yeah.
Yep.
The giant
Yeah, the giant. I think we need to go to this format next year. Yeah, in the automatic approval and send out the bill and everyone will pay for it. I like that way of doing it.
We can maybe have Whittier bind it.
Yeah. Okay, financial report, we don't have one, this week. However, moving right on to subcommittee reports, I guess it kind of blends together, budget and finance, and financial. I guess, there's a couple things that have happened. Yesterday, the FinCom asked us to come to the FinCom meeting last night. So it was 9 o'clock yesterday morning, and they said, "Can you please come to the meeting tonight because we want to discuss your budget?" They had thrown around the idea of actually cutting out $168,000, which was the Ed Jobs grant that we had received. So Carol and I were able to be there, and Rob joined us. Barbie is away, so she wasn't able to. And with short notice, there was no expectation that everyone would show up. So the premise of, or the actual reason for us being there was to explain to them why we didn't include the $168,000 Ed Jobs grant in our override last year if we knew it was going away. And the simple reason why we didn't include it in there was because we didn't, I'm not going to say we didn't need the money, but it wasn't necessary for continued operations of the schools with an override that we were putting forth. So that's why it wasn't included. Unfortunately, that didn't play out well in our favor because they cut our budget last night by $168 for the Ed Jobs grant. So we received a 2.2% increase over our funding from last year. So, there were questions of if you had $168,000 in your budget before the Ed Jobs grant and you didn't add positions, because we didn't add positions, then what did you do with the money? We had several unforeseen expenses which we were faced with. We had a new server last year which we had to replace as well, and I'm at a loss to come up with the entire list of other expenses that we had, but that was really the gist of where the money went. So now we're faced with, we need to cut $168,000 out of our budget. And they asked where that was going to come from. The only option that I could think of, I mean, again, with less than 12 hours notice to prepare for a meeting, was staff, because that's the largest part of our budget. And that would require cuts of roughly 3 to 4 FTEs. But that's not to say that's what we're going to do. What we need to do as a committee now is to figure out where we're going to get $168,000 from to balance our budget for next year. What's interesting, and you should think about this when we're trying to come up with this list and what the town is faced with, is they cut our budget so that they could start to develop I guess a CIP reserve is the best way to describe it. The town budget is balanced with $168,000 in it. They're taking that money to create a CIP reserve. So in theory, whenever we have CIP issues, like a server, they said like the server, but yet when we requested that last year, we were told it didn't meet the criteria. So I'm not sure what exactly the criteria is and how we can access that money. But what we're going to be faced with this year is any unforeseen expenses that aren't in our budget, we're going to have to go back to FinCom for it, unless you guys have some better ideas.
I recall there were several heads on the finance committee that nodded in when you said that yes, that is then the way that would happen, that you'll come back and we will then deal with that at that point.
That's correct.
I find that interesting that they understand the fact that the majority of pop-up expenses we have generally have legal ramifications, and we have no say in what those costs are.
I'd like to add to
And we also
what I
explained
observed.
that the majority of the expenses aren't predictable.
No, they're not.
They're not things that we could reasonably predict and account for. And in an ideal world, we would have, different placeholders within our budget based on our historic experience, but we're not able to do that.
I'd like to share with you my observations, but mostly for the people here and also who are watching at home on TV. And I actually made notes for the meeting tonight because I think it's that important, or it's that important to me. And I want to start out by saying that I know everybody is doing what they think is in the best interest of the town of Georgetown. I believe that. With that said, the first point that I wanted to make is that we did our job as a school committee. We asked them repeatedly, and correct me if I say anything that is not a fact, okay? Because I'm trying to just keep it that way for the record. We had asked repeatedly for guidance with establishing the budget, and we were told to provide level service, level funding for the budget. That's what our guidance was, and we asked, and that's what we kept getting back. That's what we did. That's what we did, and we came in with 3.5%, and that was because of the grant, the 168, and the special ed, a number.
250,000.
250,000. So my point in that, my first point is we did our job, the school committee did its job. We asked for everything we could have asked for, and any cuts that are coming from this is not because we didn't do our job. And I just want to be very clear about that. Two, I want to be clear that the cutting of the budget for us was not about balancing the town budget. The town budget was balanced. The Finance Committee did not have to take and make this cut. The budget was balanced, and they've made a choice to cut the 168 and put it into what I'll call a rainy day fund or whatever for the good of the town.
It's specifically earmarked for capital.
Capital
Correct.
improvements. So we now are left with a budget that we came to that was already bare bones, no place to cut. We've now had this cut, which we're going to have to make up. Not if. There will be unforeseen dollar amounts that are going to pop up that we're going to have to account for. And so we're going to go from 168 that we've just lost, and I'm just going to throw this out there that I'm sure we're going to be over 200 somewhere. I'm sure we will. And we're going to have to make that up. And the budget, the point I'm making is the budget for the town was balanced. We didn't have to be in this position. Now that was that. Three, I just made point three. That was that we don't have the additional funds. Four is a little bit, for me, four was that the committee did the right thing. And I mean the right thing in terms of the town, when we chose not to put the 168,000 into the override. And the committee took the prudent approach of saying, look, that 168, if we get that, it remains part of the override forever. But for that first year, because the grant is still there, we have an extra 168. So we said as a committee, we said it's prudent not to put that into the override. And what's happened is that has been turned around now and cut from our budget. So the effort of trying to help the town has actually backfired for the school committee. I think the last one that I wanted to talk about was the school budget, and there seems to be general agreement. I think it's fair to say within the majority of the Finance Committee, the town in general, well, I shouldn't say the town in general, but the school budget is not, my point is, the school budget is not about overspending. We are not overspending as a school budget. We are at the bare bottom. The state, even with the 1.2 million override, which is huge, which is fundamental to the success and so greatly appreciated from the town, we are at the bottom of the barrel. The state has its eye in terms of amount of money that the district is putting forward to each student's education. We're at the bottom of the barrel. The town has its eye. The state has its eye on Georgetown. They're watching us closely. We have no wiggle room in our budget, and I just want to make it clear that the school budget is not, we're not overspending, because there are implications that come out in the meetings like last night about overspending, and you can move money here and you can move money there, and I wanted to make that point very clear. And then the last part, and I thank you for your indulgence, but it's very important to me. This is now a personal opinion. I like to think most of what I said there was consistent with what took place last night. Personally, I don't feel like we're working together right now. I don't feel like the Finance Committee or the school committee is really working together very well. I want to be very clear, nothing is being done maliciously. I don't think there's any intent for that. But when I have these experiences to go on, and this is my first year sitting on the school committee through the budget process. When we're notified in the morning to attend a meeting that night for no preparation time, no coordination time, it's hard to work together. It's hard to come up with a mutually agreed upon discussion about what is in the best interest of how to handle it. I was disappointed that I did not hear anyone from the finance committee stand up and say, I support the school committee's budget. I didn't hear one person say that. That is what it is. That's the way, but finance committee is supposed to represent the entire town, and I just find that odd. And my point is that, again, I guess I know nothing is done maliciously, but I don't think we're working together, and we need to work on that part of it, because if we don't have trust between the committees, it sets a bad undercurrent to future experiences. So, thank you for.
No, thank you. Well said. Now so with that, we have to cut 168,000 out of our budget.
Can I just ask a point of
Absolutely.
information? This is strange territory for me, because in all the other positions I've had, the finance committee is advisory. They didn't have authority to do anything to your budget other than to say to town meeting or to the city council, we don't support the school department, school committee budget as proposed. We recommend it be cut. So
That's
what
true.
I'm hearing is they're telling us to cut our budget without going to town meeting for their
No.
town meeting approval.
Well, they will recommend at town meeting that it be.
Yes,
cut.
it'll go to town meeting with their recommendation of 168,000 cut.
And we can talk against that. Yes.
Absolutely.
Correct. Right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I mean,
So we shouldn't be, if that's the case, we
We're not
shouldn't be
going-
cutting the budget until
I
town meeting.
think there's so much on the table. What I'd like to suggest is that I know everybody's busy. I don't know how in hell we're going to come up with a reasonable response tonight to solve this. I
Tonight,
think,
yeah, that's.
I think we need to schedule another meeting prior to the town meeting so that we all can absorb this and come up with a rational response.
So,
Yeah. Our next meeting is May 10th.
That's right.
When is town meeting? The 9th?
the seventh.
Seventh.
Well, I think
It's-
budget
Right, yeah,
and
sorry,
finance
so-
needs to work with the superintendent and the business office
Right.
to
Yeah.
make a preliminary list.
Right.
Or at least some suggestions, or we could email a suggestion or idea or whatever
Town
to
meeting's the 7th.
Carol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we can't do anything tonight. No one's prepared, at least personally, I'm not prepared to start talking about what we should do. But obviously, ideas need to be circulated, and I would suggest just forwarding them right on to Carol. And then we can, Budget and Finance can meet, review them, make recommendations.
Can we join Budget and Finance, your subcommittee? Can we join, sit in and listen?
You can,
talk?
you
No.
can,
there, you can't say a word.
Yeah, you can sit but not say anything.
Well, can I ask a procedural question? If town meeting is on the 7th, right, then you don't have to have your cuts.
No, we don't
Yeah,
have to have
because
cuts.
Because as Jim is pointing out, you have a choice. You know, you could go to town meeting and say, we want to amend the motion for the school budget and to include the 168. Then obviously you have to speak to it, and obviously the town has to determine whether or not they agree with it. You already know Budget and Finance is going to not support that.
FinCom won't.
FinCom,
Right.
sorry, FinCom won't support that. So that's really the only decision you have to make,
Right.
really, before town meeting. Are you going to do
Yeah,
that
that
or
we're-
not? And then you have until July 1, as a school committee, you can certainly discuss
Do
it
we
in
have
public
to,
session.
Let teachers know if there's going to be any
June-
reduction by
June
June 1st?
15th.
Oh, June 15th.
Yes.
Right, so, I mean, you could pick whatever way you want to do it. You could do it certainly through subcommittee, or you could do it, through, what you could do is give information to us. We could put something together that represents your thoughts and the administrator's thoughts, and then provide options, of which you can, obviously, you ultimately have fiscal responsibility and line item authority, so you would make the decisions based on what. But I would like an opportunity to talk to the administrators about it. I know you would like an opportunity to think about it. Certainly, Budget and Finance, we always have things we can talk about. We can put this on the agenda, but you'll have an opportunity, Rob, as a full committee, to review any options, to participate in the process. Nothing will get done without the full approval of the committee.
But if we aren't on board with understanding what our fallback is, if at the town meeting it is approved as submitted, then after that try to figure out where the money's gonna come from?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much we have to restate the budget then,
Okay,
and
okay.
until, what do we have until the end of June to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to
Really, you can
you're going to
restate
get
anytime.
involved in personnel, regardless of what we're talking about tonight. I look at these principles, and I can't think of one thing that's in the budget, in the non-salary part of the budget, they can give up without, what are you going to, not buy books next year? That's crazy. So you're going to be
It's
talking about
happened.
personnel, and, but I just want to make a point about personnel. If you get involved in personnel decisions, and people are not employed in July, they'll file for unemployment. The town will then be responsible for the unemployment claims. So
No.
if you cut $168,000 out of salary, $84,000 is going to be paid in unemployment comp to those.
Jim,
Correct.
Jim, I just want to put a flashlight on what you just said. I don't think in the 168 that was talked about with the Finance Committee last night, I'm pretty sure that they did not account for that.
They did not.
So if
It
that
comes
is...
out of the town budget.
Okay, so the 168,000 comes out of ours, but what actually comes out of the town budget is more like, what, 80?
About 50% of that.
50 roughly?
Yes.
So say 80, 90,000? So you have a 25 million. What's the total town budget roughly?
24
million.
million.
So you have a $24 million total town budget, and they're saving $80,000.
They're spending 80 to save 80.
That's right.
We're losing 80 so they can save 80.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. But
So-
that's why I'm on the school committee.
So that's what we're faced with. So what we're gonna do, so then, I don't know that we'll have a meeting between now and town meeting.
I don't think we can.
I don't know that any schedule is gonna allow that, so we'll have to figure out what our position is going to be at town meeting and how we're gonna deal with the cut and whether we're going to stand up and
Who'll
request
advocate?
that. Who's gonna advocate? Right.
I don't think I'm going to be here for town
So-
meeting.
Okay, so we're gonna have to get back and figure that out. And then if it's not approved, then we need to come up with a cut list and,
Exactly.
and go from there.
Yes.
Okay. Governance.
We met 3 weeks ago. You have changes to the policy on social networking in your packet, which will require just a vote because it's a change. And we have a new policy, and this is the second reading.
Okay.
You have both copies of the old Facebook policy, by the way.
Okay.
Which you'll vote on tonight. We tried to schedule a meeting past Monday, but Barbie's out of town. We weren't able to do it.
Okay.
And the school vacation
Oh,
week
that's right.
before that, I was out of
You
town.
were out of town, right. So, that is probably gonna happen in the next week.
Yeah, our hope was
I-
that we could
Once Barbie's
schedule
home.
next week.
Once Barbie's home she gets home the first. So
which
we're
is
not gonna hear
Monday.
from her first. So, I'm hoping by Tuesday she will get back to us and we'll have something that Laura can post for Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, and that would be good because then if there's a change to the policy, we can put it in the packet for the 4th,
Right.
and then on the 10th we could take a vote.
All right. Negotiating, we're going into executive session to discuss negotiating after this meeting. School building committee, Rob, is there anything new and exciting?
I think there are some exciting, I will caveat that my observation was from home. I wasn't at the meeting, I saw it on TV, and my general sense is that the building and the project is moving in a really wonderful direction in terms of how its overall design on the exterior and the inclusion of nature as part of this whole school, not only the physical environment, but hopefully the curriculum and so on and so forth. The interior, I'm gonna.
Well, the preferred alternative was submitted to the MSBA as required by the 18th. They brought the, lengthy document, storage documents that they had submitted to the meeting and passed them around. Today was a day where, thanks to the principals for organizing opportunities for staff members to meet with the architects. So they did meet with the Pearly K-1 staff and the related service people. And they did also meet at Pembroke actually they were there all day, at Pembroke with all of the grade level teachers, all of the specialists, anybody, the kitchen staff. And then one of the architects went over and met with the middle school staff, the sixth grade, I should say, the sixth grade staff during their team time. So today was a very packed day, but I was able to come in and out on some of the sessions and, got a good sense that the teachers and staff had the opportunity to really look at the flow of the building, where classrooms would be located. I felt like it was a great discussion, and I'm very happy that we did this at the front end of the project, because nothing is worse than architects who, do have great ideas, creating a building, and then not having participation of the staff that's going to live in it, and then find out after the fact that there are issues with that, with the design. So this was a very important step today, and there will be several other sessions as well. I believe there'll be a community meeting that'll be scheduled. Parents and the community can come forward and look again at the design and have input. It's planned to be a very public process.
All right,
Thank you.
great, moving right along. Okay, new business, policy change, IJNDD, social networking policy. This is a change, so we don't need to do a first, second, or 9,000th read, so we just vote on that. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the policy on Facebook and social networking websites, which is file IJNDD as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, this is a second reading of policy JFA, which is the school admission for children of non-resident professional staff. And this is the second reading, so we vote at this time. So the chair will entertain a motion for school admissions for children of non-resident professional staff, file JFA, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
I want to make sure that this is clear. And I'm not, it talks about if the committee will allow requests from teachers or staff, will set a date by which all requests must be provided in this office. If there are more requests than accommodated, entrants will be determined by seniority. Those interested must first file with an application for school choice. To me, it's not clear. It's like, if someone someone who works in this, and the school committee allows school choice, why doesn't it just say they're allowed to join school choice? Why do we have, you know what I mean? It's like, why should there be seniority and all that kind of stuff? It's just, they're going into a lottery if there's school choice. There shouldn't be any that's just my opinion.
But if there are, does that,
No, what I really.
I'm trying to get the intention of what you're
If
saying.
the lottery fill is if there's 5 spaces for first grade, and there's 7 staff members with first graders, they all have to apply through lottery. Say 4 of the 7 get slots
through choice?
through choice. The school committee then, based on a recommendation from the superintendent, can make the decision to allow those 3 extra children in anyway, if it doesn't skew the size of the classrooms. It's all based on class size.
That's what that says?
Well,
So-
that's the intent.
The intent, okay, so there's 5 there's 5
Yeah,
openings.
5 openings, right.
And there's 7 staff members, and
Even if
there's 5 staff members, and there's 15 from outside the community.
Correct.
So there's 20 people for 5 spots.
Mhm.
And 2 of the 5 staff members get in. The superintendent has the discretion to let the other 3 in?
No, the school committee has discretion.
Oh, I thought it said the superintendent.
Well, let's make sure, because I thought that the intention was the school committee opens the
The school committee will determine if such requests will be allowed for the next school year, based on space
Based on
and
budget
budget.
considerations.
Set a date.
Where is that?
First
First
sentence, third paragraph.
Yeah, it's the school committee's
It's the school
It
committee.
would be based on Carol's recommendation.
It goes through
But
the
it's-
superintendent's
But
office.
it's not
for-
clear, I don't think, in my reading, that the school committee has the ability, because I don't think that's fair, so it's just my opinion, I don't think it's fair if 12 people that don't live in the district that were not staff get denied, and so we said we had 5 spots, but we're gonna bring in, we have the ability to bring 3 extra teachers, children
It's an
in.
advantage to our, it's an advantage to our faculty.
It's a professional courtesy.
It is.
You know what,
Well, I
Dave,
just don't support it, that's all.
the second sentence says the school committee may determine
Yeah.
upon a request
Yeah.
from a staff
Okay,
member.
that's
right.
fine.
Okay. All right.
Can, the second to last paragraph, just that one line, transportation to and from school is the responsibility of the non-union employee. So what happens of the union employee?
Good point.
Who put, I didn't,
That's a good point.
Excellent point.
they're all union employees. Well, actually,
Of the, no, the
How
teacher.
about
it
if
would
we
be
just say
responsibility of the employee.
of the employee?
Get
Okay.
So can you withdraw your motion so I can say as amended?
Mm-hmm. That motion is withdrawn.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the policy for school admissions for children of non-resident professional staff, file JFA, as amended to delete the reference to non-union employee in the second to last paragraph.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Carries 3 to 1. Okay. All right, moving right along to the school committee self-evaluation. All right, the way that we do this, or the way that we've done it in the past, is you all submitted your school committee evaluations. Laura tallies, or doesn't really tally, but just provides the data of where we were. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Stop me if you have questions. So the school committee self-evaluation for 2012, under governance, the committee policies are clear and up to date. Generally, they were all ones, indicating strongly agree, except for 1, 2, which was agree. No, what
Why
I'm,
don't we just-
no, you know what I'm
can
going
we
to do?
just post this online?
Let me read through, you know what, I'm gonna read through each, I'm just gonna read through each governance, I'm just gonna read the subsections. If anyone has a strong opinion on one of the points, call it out. Okay? Governance, there were really, the only issue that I noted there was the committee members take part in educational workshops and conferences.
Correct. Great.
And that's something that I think is really, my opinion, more of a time issue.
Have you done charting the course?
Yeah.
Do we know if Barbie has?
I do not know that.
But that's something that if the school committee wanted to set a goal, we could certainly agree
Yeah.
to put something in place.
Yeah, which is the
Anyway,
purpose of
We make
this.
our
That's-
school committee
that's right.
goals for next
Right.
year based on this, and then our next year's goals are reflected.
Reflected in this. Okay, under operations, again, there were no issues, other than there was 1-3 on new members receive introductory training and orientation when they join the committee. I know I was probably late on that with you and Barbie. Member relations, overwhelmingly fine. There were a couple 2s, 2.5. Yeah, you know who that was. Okay, committee and superintendent relations. There were, again, all 1s and 2s, a couple scatterings of types and frequency are agreed to in advance. And I'm wondering if that's more of a learning curve of understanding how the committee and the superintendent work together.
I don't know.
And that sometimes things come up that, right before meetings that we end up not communicating. Next, strategic planning and fiscal management. A long-term strategic plan is regularly reviewed. That was a 4 for some people.
Right, yeah,
Some
that,
knows.
Oh, no.
Okay, and we might not have gotten to that point.
yeah, I think that's fair though, and
Yeah.
that's something that I would certainly put down as a joint goal.
Okay.
That we should do more often.
Yeah, and that goes to planning as well.
Yep.
Community relations, community has a public relations plan, that was an overwhelming no. and don't know, which is a
Where-
goal,
where-
and it's
Oh, that is a
something.
huge goal
Where are
coming
we?
up.
Relations.
Community
Oh,
relations.
yeah, absolutely. Right.
And that is a miss on
That was a goal this year too.
and that is a miss on our part. And
It's
most,
timing.
It's time.
It's subcommittees and it's meetings. It's
It's
timing.
time.
You don't
But it's
have-
also using different kinds of outlets to get information out. I mean, I think we can, we're gonna work
Got
on
some
that. That's
energy coming
that's
into
a
it.
major goal.
We got some energy on that.
And we will take care of that.
Conduct of meetings,
That's the way to look at it, Rob.
let's see, full and sufficient debate is allowed was the only 3 that we had there. So that, again, will be
Oh,
something
that's-
we will have to work toward, allowing more debate. Okay, we have to vote on that?
And so for the public, so that they can find this, where do they find this?
Laura, do you post this?
I can.
We should post it under school committee, probably?
Yeah, under school committee.
drop down?
Just about.
Self-evaluation 2012?
So that the public can find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the school committee self-evaluation for school year 2012 as presented.
Second.
All those, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent's evaluation. Alrighty. Just give me a minute to get all this. Okay, so the way that we work this is each person reads in their comments,
Well, if they have.
if you have comments. Let me step back for a second. If you're gonna read comments in, it's assumed that you've sat down and,
Actually, I met with everybody.
okay.
I appreciate the time.
So, you basically go around, read your comments in if you would like. And I have,
You can go by
yeah, I'm gonna go
section.
by section. And I'm going to, I printed out Barbie's right before I got to this store hour.
Do you have
afterwards.
copies of those?
No, I don't have copies
Oh.
of anyone's,
I don't have my copy of that.
other than mine.
No, I think she has some feedback from Barbie because she.
Barbie's away,
Oh,
so
okay.
she met with Carol before
Okay.
she left, so she gave it
did.
to me.
Yeah.
To read. So I'm just gonna go, Barbie's is not, done section by section, it's a paragraph. So Laura, can I just read that? Yes. And you can, include it? So for Barbie, I'm just gonna read it verbatim. At our meeting, I explained to Carol that I was very pleased with the overall job performance. She was very high energy, cooperative, respectful, and cares about the community as a whole. I did tell her that I would love to see her delegate more. She wasn't surprised by this statement. Regardless of the fact that I think she takes on a lot, she does a great job handling the added responsibility, yet I feel that she needs to step back from a few things and allow others to take on additional tasks. Carol displays a keen knowledge of the budget, and I have been impressed with her ability to balance our difficult budget while always considerate of preventing staff cuts. So that's Barbie's. Okay, now I'm just gonna go through each section of the evaluation, and you can state your comments if you have them, and then Laura will, put them into the record. So the first category is leadership. Does anyone, do you wanna start, Rob? Do you wanna,
Sure.
you don't have to, if you wanna
Yeah,
abstain,
no,
just,
I'll-
I'll just go through and,
We're totally fine with
Add your
starting. I think leadership of all of them is just superior. I'm very thankful for Carol's position, so that's all I want to say on that.
okay.
Thank you, Rob.
I think that this was an extremely difficult year for Carol because she had to act as the special ed director and part-time director of finance and operations. And what Barbie said, being able to to delegate was not as much of an option this year as it has been in the past. So I would just look.
And every year I hear
I
it,
would look
every year.
For you to work on delegating a little
All
bit
right,
more next
working
year.
on it, yeah.
But other than that, superb leadership. Excellent administrative team as well.
Dave?
Next, anything?
Oh, I am. I was gonna do mine last and then start over again.
Okay. As far as leadership goes, having worked with Carol for, was it 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Jeez.
This is your 6th year.
Yeah, I had 1 year with the other.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yep. got it.
And for me, the comparison between the year with the previous superintendent and now, I appreciate the leadership that
Thank you, Dave.
Carol brings to the district.
I also consider this to be one of her great strengths, perhaps the greatest strength that we typically find with her. Delegation, I always agree that it's something that she needs to work at. However, this year there was really no one to delegate to because she was forced to pick up the roles of two other people on her administrative staff who we weren't able to fill yet. God willing, it'll be soon. But I think the other thing that is important to remember is that she always has the interest of the 1,634 students that walk through our building every day in mind. So I think that's another area that we should be proud of. Okay, next is...
Can I just, something that both of you said that I just think is really important for the public, with the roles that Carol was taking on in addition to her own role because of what this year, how difficult this year was yeoman's work. I don't know how many hours a week you put in, and I don't even want to know, but I've never seen anyone more or harder than you. And are things perfect? No. But geez, for all that you did and all that you pulled together, that was this year in particular. Right? So
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, Rob, next up, Performance Standard 2, Educational Programs and Student Services.
The note I wrote to that is I really am still learning a lot about this section,
Okay.
so I'm going to let that one go.
I think that she works extremely hard in this role as her district leader. She wants the student improvement to always keep going up, moving forward, and I know that she's going to be working with the administrators to update staff evaluations because that's going to be required next year.
Yeah.
Is it next year for us or the year after? Yeah.
Start 13.
2013.
So that is going to be another monumental task that she's going to have to take on. And because she is so astutely aware of the educational programs we have in our district and the students' performance, because she's always data-driven, I know that she will continue to do an excellent job in this area.
I think my feeling is that there's been an attempt in collaboration with the school committee to improve the curriculum and try to develop more opportunities for kids. And most times on curriculum, I tend to defer to the administrators, to do what's right. So.
Okay. I think within the standard, it's important to realize that we've had continual success on our standardized testing scores, which I fully understand are not the, end measure, but they certainly are a testament to what you've been able to do with the educational programs and student services within the district. While we've done amazingly well in certain test scores, you're always the first one to point out we're also lagging behind in other ones and coming up with key actions and plans to move that along. So I think that's also an area, that we should comment on.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Rob, I think you already hit on this one tonight, budget and finance.
Demonstrating budget proficiency, I've learned a lot from Carol and Jim also. Thank you, very much. But I think she does a great job with that. I think my biggest challenge with this one is the articulation with the community of the budget. And it's not, this was an interesting process for me because I became aware of that anything to do with communications is a two-way street. And it's not just Carol this way, it's us this way too. And so I said, we all have not done a good job, in my opinion, of communicating the budget to the public in a user-friendly, easy, understandable way.
Okay.
That's.
No one understands the budget better than Carol in the district. She understands how any slight change to it can impact special ed, athletics, choice, loss of grants. And if you have a question about the budget, you can always go to her and she has the answer for you. And if she doesn't, she has it for you in 10 minutes. So I think this is, along with her leadership, budget and finance is absolutely her highest strength.
Dave?
Actually, my feeling on this, no disrespect to Rob, but having worked with the previous, don't mean to be bringing up the previous superintendent, but the committee had a reputation of, and we heard every year at town meeting that the school budget was a black hole. Heard that word all the time. It's a black hole.
Yep.
We don't know. I mean, people set up a town meeting with the book, and they'd be screaming, "So what do you want this money for?" You know. And I think in working
right,
with the
David.
school committee, I think we've worked in close conjunction with Carol.
Yep.
And I think George Mocher had a lot to do with that and
Very
help
helpful.
through that process. So I think we've come a long way with that.
I agree.
But I think your point is well made.
My point is, I was at a town meeting. It was the override year, the first one. And all the stuff there was a book that everyone got mailed. And on the back page was a list of everything that was in the override. And this guy gets up to the microphone and he's waving the book, saying, "It's a black hole. You're not even telling us where you're going to spend the money." And I'm like, what else can we do? It's printed right there. So
I think, and this is where I bring our part into it. I agree with everything you just said. It's getting this information out to the people, which is, I think, more of what I'm talking about.
And some of that we can improve by making sure things are on the website, making sure that, we did budget and finance, we did budget focus groups the first couple of years that I was here. And then, of course, we had a part-time business manager this year, so that's not something that we could do. But I think it's something that we ought to reinstate. I think it did get a little stale after the third year because it was really pretty much the same information. But I think that it would be good to get information from the public as to what kind of information would they like and do they need in order to feel like they're informed. But I think regular communication is important on the
It's
budget.
important, but you can't force it on
But we
people.
can't force it on
I
people.
mean, look at our
Totally.
budget meetings, no one
I
shows.
was going to ask
Yeah,
you
totally.
exactly how many people from the public
Right.
were at our budget meetings.
I
Zero.
guess.
Public relations can look at this too.
Yeah,
Right.
I
And
think
you
it's
know what the-
directly
yeah,
related.
you know,
Yeah.
So I think I put it down as
Let's
something we
focus
should
back
work
to
at.
the evaluation.
Yeah.
And then I agree, and that should be a goal that we set for next
Yeah.
year. As far as budget and finance, I thought this year was especially interesting that Carol still knew where all the pieces were, even though it was a completely different format. We made strong gains this year in understanding exactly what was in each line item. We've had issues in the past with understanding our liabilities in special education, as well as understanding our liabilities for summer work. That's all. Those have been two areas that we've always been a little.
It's true.
I don't want to say not clear on, but not have the best information. And this year we really had every piece that we could ever imagine. So thank you for that. Next up, Rob, is personnel management.
I'm not ducking it. I feel like I'm also learning an awful lot about this. When I first got on the board, I thought we had a lot more jurisdiction than we did, and as I found out the way it works, and a lot of this is goes on behind the scenes and so on. And so I'm taking in a lot of information. So I'm just gonna let it go. I'm not gonna comment either way on it.
I think she does an excellent job of personnel management. I think this year was, as I said before, particularly difficult because she had to do her own job as well as two other administrative level jobs, not full-time for finance, but 3 days a week.
True.
So.
Two, but he did spend more time, as is the interim special ed director. She
I'm
does
just
a lot
saying
beyond
this
too.
year,
No question about it.
You have a solid team. You've developed a solid team of administrators, and I think once you get these last two pieces into place, everything will run more smoothly, and I don't think that you will have to worry as much about the management of it as you had to do this year. But you did a superb job doing what you had to do this year in the circumstances that were required of you.
Thank you.
My turn.
Your turn.
Okay, well, this is the one area, and this will be no surprise to Carol, because this is just the one area every year that I don't give you really bad marks, but I've had concerns over the years, in my 6 years on the committee, because we've had so much turnover, and it's not always, and I always say to Carol, it's not always her fault. It's not sometimes it's out of her control, but you know, it's my son Patrick had 5 middle school or 5 principals between his 5th grade at Pembroke, 4th grade at Pembroke
Yeah.
through the middle school. He had 5 every year. He had a different principal.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 in 5
Yeah.
years. But anyway, so that's just I mean, some of the bullet points, you know, productive relationships with bargaining groups, certainly. But so my really only not so perfect thing is
Yeah, I remember,
just the,
yeah.
okay.
Particularly the middle school turnover was really
The middle
most
school,
concerning.
but, you know, but it's been special ed, it's been principals,
Okay.
like at Pembroke, it's been, yeah, so it's, I mean, the middle
Okay.
school in particular, but other administrative positions.
Okay.
You know, at the assistant what is it, the assistant principal or whatever she was called.
Kristen?
No.
No.
Oh, curriculum. Kristen, and then you had, who was the,
Oh, Mary Ellen.
She was a full principal.
I'm
no,
sorry,
the,
Dave.
no,
What
the,
position?
No, we're talking, those are middle school principals.
no, there was an administrator, what was her name that, maybe, or maybe.
At
she
what
left.
level? At what
She
level?
was the assistant,
Was that this year, Dave?
no, it was a few years ago.
Okay. But
Peter knows who I'm talking about. What was her name?
Peter, can you help?
Oh, Carrie.
Carrie
Oh,
Robbins.
Carrie Robbins.
Carrie,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry, I just put it all together.
Anyway, that's all.
All right.
That's all I was
Thank you,
saying.
Dave.
All right, personnel management. I think one of the strengths that we have under this is that you've been able to develop a generally strong administrative team. The only issue, as everyone else has said, that has always concerned me is the turnover.
Mm-hmm.
So that it concerns me from twofold: the cost to the district as well as the cost to the students.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that we've discussed, and it's in some instances we can, you know, take responsibility for it, and in other instances we've found that we're a great stepping stone for people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the business manager.
Oh yeah.
That's another position that's had
Yep.
quite a bit of turnover.
Question about it.
So, yeah. All right. Next, moving on to Performance Standard 5, Communications and Public Relations.
I've already pretty much been pretty clear about the public relations part, so I won't repeat that. The communications part, this is where I started to realize it's a two-way street, and my challenge in communication, and it's a Carol's brain is so it's so creative. It's hard for me sometimes to keep up with it. And what I need is, in communications, I need a little more focus in the topic that we're talking about at that moment in time. So this is the two-way street of, you know, my challenges and just relationships with communications. So that was that.
All right. Anne?
I think, like I said, she lets people know what we have to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
She's great
it is. I never have a question that is not answered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that if people have questions for the superintendent, or they need to go to the superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to random people. Don't come to me. Go to the person with the information, because she has the most current and most up-to-date information. And I think that when you ask her for information, anyone in the public, she tells it to you, or she gets it for you very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, like we said earlier, you know, we need to establish PR, because I think a lot of people, everybody loves to talk about the bad. That's all we ever hear about. But there's so much good going on in the district, and so much good with the teachers and the students and the and the art and the music and all the things that seem to get lost because we're focused on, you know, this part of the budget. You know, and I think that working on a PR committee next year will be a huge step forward. But I think overall,
I agree.
you know, communications are excellent.
Thank you, Anne.
I mean, that's my perspective. So.
Dave?
I have mostly positive comments about that. I mean, all positive. In particular, what I think is the working relationship with the local governing officials. I think is something that's very strong. That's really improved over the years.
Okay, thank you.
Going on what Dave said, I've always found that to be the biggest strength that you have in developing the relationships among the town board, so that we actually can have conversations and freely exchange information. And for example, I mean, with all due respect, when we went into the FinCom meeting last night, they had all the information. They knew everything. It wasn't, you know, we could have educated them better, but they had the information. It was available, and it wasn't walking them through each page, you know, of a new document. So we've developed a relationship there, and I think public relations just is a weakness, but it's not. You can't own all of that.
It's not your weakness.
Yeah, it's not yours. It's something that we have to work with as well. All right, last, school committee relations.
This is my first year on, and all I just have is a big excellent. I've never been involved in a conversation with Carol where it's been positional. I think Carol is excellent at finding out what the intent is, what's the common goal that you're both looking towards. I think the school committee relations is excellent. I have no complaints, nothing at all.
Thank you, Rob.
Outstanding. Dave and I hired her. You know, so it's been 5 years of information that's timely and
Yeah.
you know, accurate and very thought intensive, but always there. It's always been good, the relationship that we've had. And I know what it was like before, so I know what I'm speaking of. So
Yes, me too.
outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we always say is, you know, we like surprises, so we don't surprise her and she doesn't surprise us, and that was not the case in the previous world.
No.
You know, it was very
No professional
very
courtesy.
distrustful. And I'm actually the person that met Carol out at Quabog, so that was my responsibility to drive the 49 hours out to the middle of central Massachusetts.
That's a slight exaggeration.
No cell phone. It's just, I mean, it's really darkness. It's darkness. No offense to anyone who's from there. So anyway, I think it's all positive for me.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna miss working with you.
I'm going to miss working with you as well, and Dan.
Seriously. Miss you.
That's the hard part about, you know, that you form the relationships and then it's transitions.
You'd be the only male dude.
You've made a lot of changes and a lot of difference.
Sadly, I can't come up with a good one-word adjective because they stole mine.
Uh-oh.
But for school committee relations, I can say nothing but extremely positive, forthcoming, and I think thoughtful also, because she's always has the committee in mind when issues are presented, and understanding what we're going to be faced with, and really getting that information to us ahead of time so that we're not left in a position where we're not, you know, certain where things are going to fall. And she's even presented things that she might not.
Right.
She might have her own outcome that she's wishing for, but she presents it in a light to the committee that allows us to make our decisions, which may or may not
As it
be
should be.
her decision. We will be getting something from the Doucettes. We'll include that in the next packet when that's available, and we'll read that in or include that with the evaluation as well.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your candid feedback, and having the time to meet with each of you is important. You know, as in any situation, you know, no one does it alone. You know, I think we've been a team, and I, you know, can't thank my administrative team enough, you know, past and present, for all the extra time and effort they put in to working as a team. I do think as a school district, we do have a team approach. And I'm grateful for the participation that I get from everyone, positive and negative. You know, I think it is important when you sit in this seat. There's not one single thing you can do that 100% of the people are going to like or agree with. So you just have to remain focused on what you believe to be right, taking into consideration feedback and trying to make the best and most sound decisions you can at the time. Sometimes, people will agree it's right, and sometimes people will agree it's wrong, and I understand that. But I am very grateful to be working in Georgetown. I've met some phenomenal people since I've been here. The families, the kids, committee, everybody has been great. And as I said, I find, for me, this feels like a good match. Like I said, I've been here 5 years, and it's gone very quickly. And really enjoyed the students and getting to know the kids. One of the things I like about the size of Georgetown is that you can be, even though delegation, I get it, it can be a place where you can actually be involved and touch it. I work daily with principals. We help each other out. I'm at student events. I get to see what's going on. I engage with as many teachers as I can, and I am grateful. I am a better administrator for the benefit of all the, the work we do together. So I do thank you very much, and Dave, and I will certainly miss working with you. But I know you're not far away, and new people will come on, and I know they'll continue to get behind the focus of the district and make positive and constructive suggestions, and I look forward to that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Typically we vote on this, but what I'm going to do is propose that we vote at the next meeting. You'll have a chance to read it in the minutes, and you'll have a chance to reflect on what the new sets are presenting, so we can make any adjustments at that point.
Thank you, Jim.
So if there's not an issue with that, I'd like to move that. If there's an issue, please
No.
call it out.
Go ahead.
All right. So next we're going to go into executive session. We will not be returning to, Carol, we're not returning to regular session, right? The
We
issue.
might to approve the contract. Yes,
Right,
we
okay.
would return
So
to
we
executive
are going to
session.
adjourn into executive session
Joan,
for the
staying?
purposes of personnel
Joan,
negotiation
I will
as
give
well
you,
as
I'll give you a
discussing
call, and thank you for staying.
teachers' contract negotiating strategy. We will be returning to a regular session to approve the contract. So it's a roll call vote into executive session.
Yes.
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 Have a good night, buddy.
Good night, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, see you too. What's on you, Jackie?